Welcome to another Wednesday edition of Your Day and a chance to talk turkey with representatives from the South Carolina Department of Natural Resources. As always, on the first Wednesday of the month, Mike Willis is our host for today's live call-in edition. He is joined in the Columbia studios of ETV Radio by a wildlife biologist who serves as the DNR State Turkey Project Manager and a wildlife conservation officer. Turkey hunting season gets underway in Game Zone 6 later this month and on April the 1st across the state. So today we will discuss the forecast for this spring's wild turkey season, along with any news or changes to the regulations for 2011. You are welcome to call in with your questions or comments. Our DNR folks will take your calls throughout the hour when Your Day continues. This is Your Day. I'm Diana Daniels. Thanks for joining us today as we have a conversation on wild turkeys. Our host for today's call-in discussion is Mike Willis of the South Carolina Department of Natural Resources. And Mike, I'm going to let you introduce your guest today.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here for DNR on Your Day. Charles Ruth, the Deer and Turkey Project Manager for the South Carolina Department of Natural Resources, here with us today. A biologist from the Wildlife and Freshwater Fisheries section of the Department of Natural Resources. Charles, good to see you again.
Good to see you again, Mike. Nice to be back on your program.
Also here today, Ken Cope with our Law Enforcement Division. Ken, good to have you back on the radio, too.
It's nice to be back.
Now, Ken, in what part of the state do you primarily work?
Newberry County is my primary area to work, but we could go everywhere pretty much, surrounding areas.
So that would include Lake Murray. You patrol part of Lake Murray as well, or all of Lake Murray, I should say.
Yes, sir, all of Lake Murray.
All right. We're going to talk about turkey season today. It is upon us. And, Charles, what are the start dates for turkey season in South Carolina?
Mike, for most of the state, it's April 1 through May 1. Game Zone 6, which encompasses 12 counties in the coastal plain, it opens March 15th and, again, closes April 1.
All right. If you'd like to...
May 1.
May 1. All right. If you have a question for Charles Ruth, the biologist, or law enforcement officer Ken Cope, you can join the conversation today as well. 888-539-8859. 888-539-8859. So Game Zone 6, that's pretty much the southern part of South Carolina. That's the only area of the state where it starts March 15. But on all WMA lands, the wildlife management areas, public hunting land, the start date is April 1. Now, Ken, what about licenses and permits? What do hunters need to legally hunt turkeys?
Everyone that's going to be partaking in turkey hunting, even the kids, have to have turkey tags. The turkey tag can be issued through our agency, but the main reason the kids have to have them is a transportation tag. It's not a tag just to be selling. We don't even sell the tags, but it's a transportation, and that way we know how many birds have been killed. We can keep track with it through our surveys that are done later in the year.
All right. So the turkey tags are mandatory. Once you bag a turkey, you have to affix the tag.
Yes, sir. From the point of kill, from wherever you shoot the turkey, you transport the turkey out of the woods, you put a tag on one leg and make sure it's sealed properly like it's supposed to, so you cannot remove it without messing the tag up.
Right. And how are the tags distributed, Charles? And who would receive turkey tags? And if, maybe if they haven't already received them, they plan on hunting turkeys, how would they go about getting their turkey tags?
That's a good question, Mike. We're issuing most of the tags now through the mail, in contrast to the old-fashioned way, which was over-the-counter. It was a handwritten form. We've tried to wean away from that because there's no digital record associated with those handwritten forms. So, my biggest message to turkey hunters is whenever you get your new hunting license, however you do it, you need to request the tags. You will not get them at that point. But we'll flag your name digitally, and your tags will be mailed about this time of the year. In fact, the last 10 days or 2 weeks, we've had a big mail out to all the folks who've requested turkey tags. You can, if you're over the counter at a Walmart or a local vendor, when you purchase your hunting license in July, your new hunting license, you simply request turkey tags. If you get a renewal form in the mail, there will be a check box for you to check turkey tags. Again, we will note that in your record, and they will be mailed to you in February. And even if you're renewing online, there will be that same checkbox, which will allow us to do that type of business with you. If all else fails, we still have some local vendors that have the handwritten forms, and those should be available starting right away. So if you get in a pinch, you can still find the old-fashioned handwritten forms.
Okay. And a reminder, too, for our listeners, if you need to visit the DNR website to find out more about turkey hunting in South Carolina, you can always find a link to the DNR website on the Your Day Radio website, which is yourday.clemson.edu, yourday.clemson.edu. Charles, what is the forecast and the outlook for the upcoming turkey season?
Actually, it's a little better, Mike. And of course, most of the avid turkey hunters out there understand that we've been going through, 6 or 7 years of a little bit of suppressed turkey population. We simply hadn't had very good reproduction in the state of South Carolina, by and large, with some exceptions. We actually had better reproduction last summer. I've been getting a lot of calls, since the summertime about seeing a lot more turkeys. In fact, when I ran into Ken this morning, he was like, I'm still seeing lots and lots of birds. Mm-hmm. It's all based on reproduction. So I think the message is there's going to be some number more birds in the woods this spring than maybe the past few years. The problem with it is, Mike, those are going to be young birds. And as far as the males, you're going to have a lot of jakes, and it's going to take another year for that slug of jakes, that cohort of jakes. This time next year, they will be adult birds, and they will be, much more involved in the gobbling and the breeding and so forth. So, maybe we've turned the corner and we're back on the upswing. And, one thing I'll mention is that, this kind of decline of turkeys is not just South Carolina. I meet with biologists from all the southeastern states, and we've been talking about this decline in turkeys among all states for 3 or 4 years now, and we're really not sure what's going on, and looking to try to do some research in the near future about that.
All right. We're talking turkey season on today's DNR on Your Day program. It's the first Wednesday in the month, so whenever DNR is here, we talk about hunting, fishing, and boating in South Carolina. If you'd like to join us, 888-539-8859 is the phone number. Charles Ruth, who is the Deer and Turkey Project Manager for the Department of Natural Resources, is here, and also Ken Cope from the DNR Law Enforcement Division. Charles, what is the method you use to determine or make an educated guess about what type of turkey season we're going to have?
Right. Well, what we do each summer, Mike, we do a summer turkey survey. Some people call it a brood survey.
Okay.
Understand that turkeys reproduce in the spring, and by the end of summer, there's a lot of mortality factors on young turkeys. On turkey poults, everything wants to eat a turkey poult. So we do not do the survey right after they hatch. We wait until the end of the summer when they've more or less grown about halfway and have become recruited into the population. That way, what you're seeing in July and August that's become part of the turkey population. And that survey we've been doing continuously each summer since 1982. So we've got a long data set on that. It involves our agency biologists, technicians, conservation officers, a lot of non-governmental wildlife or forestry type people, a lot of forestry commission people, forest service people, and in fact it involves a lot of private landowners that have an interest in turkeys. Mm-hmm. Anybody that can identify turkeys and is comfortable with determining gobblers versus hens versus poults, you can call the office and we'll sign you up. We've also got something that if you go to our website through the Your Day site, I've got a sign-up place that you can go to under our turkey section where you can download the forms and participate in the survey. But again, all it is a sighting, and what you're looking at is a ratio of hens to poults. You've also got information about number of gobblers. It's broken out by county and then by region. And I'll tell you, Mike, I've been a deer biologist over 20 years. I took over our turkey program, 6 or 7 years ago, and it's been really neat to watch how the turkey population changes and actually how well coordinated the next year's harvest is with our brood survey.
Mm-hmm.
It tracks right along. It's almost magical. Deer are kind of insidious. You don't really oftentimes know what's going on in the deer world as far as population dynamics, but this information that we get from our brood survey, it tracks really well. If the survey indicates poor recruitment, well, the next spring we don't harvest as many turkeys. If the brood survey says you got good reproduction and recruitment, the next year you follow up and your turkey harvest will go up. So it works really well.
All right. I have lost my video monitor here in the studio, so I'm going to have to refer back to Clemson to see if we have any callers on hold here real quick. And if we do, we will go to the telephone at 888-539-8859. Okay. If you'd like to give us a call and join the conversation today, 888-539-8859. Talking turkey season with Charles Ruth, a biologist with the Wildlife and Freshwater Fisheries section of the Department of Natural Resources, and also Ken Cope from our Law Enforcement Division is here with us today. Also, don't forget we have the Palmetto Sportsman's Classic coming up the last weekend in the month, which is March the 25th, 26th, and 27th. This is an annual event, and we've been doing it for, I believe, 27 years now in South Carolina, and it is held at the State Fairgrounds in Columbia. The 25th, 26th, and 27th, the annual Palmetto Sportsman's Classic coming up right here in Columbia. All right, let's go to the telephone now. We have video, so let's go to Mike now in Charleston. Hi, Mike. You're on the air with Your Day and the Department of Natural Resources.
Mike, I had a problem. I had to ask a question about whether the coyote population is having a great impact upon the poults and on the turkey population in general, since I see so many coyotes down here. But two is why in the world does DNR protect the feral hogs in the National Forest? I just am totally at a loss on that one. And I think they may be having an impact on the turkey population too. Hit on either question, either way.
Yeah, okay. Let me start with the first question, Mike. We've got a major study going on right now looking at predation on deer fawns from coyotes, and we're documenting a good bit of that, okay? There's not a lot of data out there related to predation, coyotes versus poults, but let me say that, again, this is a concern across the Southeast, these declining turkey numbers. We know what breaks up turkey nests. There's a whole suite of predators, possums, raccoons, snakes, foxes, you name it, that are going to break up turkey nests. We've done a lot of research on that. We know what can catch an adult turkey, but there's kind of a gap in knowledge for the period when the poults first come off the nest and the hen is brooding them until they get to be flight stage. So you got a 2 to 3 week period where there simply hasn't been a lot of research done anywhere across the country, because that's a hard study to do, catching these young birds and putting a transmitter on them. So I guess what I'm trying to say is we don't know what the role of coyotes may be as far as poults. It is something that we desperately need to look at. My counterparts in the other states, we've come up with some research topics. That is one, in fact. I can tell you that if we had any turkey funds in South Carolina, which we do not, unlike deer funds, which, the tag money, the doe tag money is earmarked for deer research and management. We do not have that type of funding source for turkeys. If we did, we would be working on that problem right now. So you got your finger on something that we would like to find out as well. As far as hogs on public land, we kind of got to weigh the situation with, you can shoot a hog if there's an open season with a specific weapon for that season. One of the problems we try to moderate in not having it wide open is there's other uses of those properties outside of hunting seasons. Plus, if you've got a situation where it's okay to have a high-powered rifle out on a WMA, say in May or June, there's going to be some issues with people trying to shoot deer. And that's one of our big concerns is using these weapons for things other than coyotes. So That coupled with the fact that you've got other uses of those properties, particularly when there's not an open season for some species, that's kind of why we're trying to balance this whole issue.
All right, Mike, we appreciate the call. Good question, too, because that's a very common question about the coyotes. What's your, I hate to put you on the spot, but, what's your gut feeling on that? I would think they certainly have some.
Well, Mike, I'll tell you, I'm having to eat some crow over the whole thing with deer because, and as a southeast deer biologist, we looked out west to see what coyotes had historically done to deer.
Yeah.
And it had a way of working out. They've got plenty of game out west. I'll tell you one big difference out west, they don't shoot deer like we shoot in the southeast. So I think, now that we've got this study, we're getting a better look at this dynamics between coyotes and deer fawns. They are a player. There's no question about that. So maybe tweaking some things related to how we treat deer is important. As far as turkeys, we don't know. That's a hard study to do. It hasn't been done. It needs to be done. So I'm not going to sit here and say that they aren't a player because I'm having to eat a little crow more so than I anticipated related to this deer issue.
Yeah. Well, coyotes and feral hogs, that's a whole different program. In fact, we did that program probably about 4 or 5 months ago. But,
they aren't protected generally in the state. Yeah. There's no season. There's no closed season. There's no bag limit. So we encourage people to harvest them.
All right. We are talking about turkey season in South Carolina. Somewhat of a staggered start date in the state of South Carolina. Starts in Game Zone 6, the southernmost part of the state, on the 15th of March, but then the rest of the state, it begins on April the 1st, and that includes all WMA lands in South Carolina. We do have a number of people on hold at 888-539-8859. Got my video monitor back up and running now so I can see what's going on. That's a good thing. Let's go to Carl in Fountain Inn. Hello, Carl. Thanks for calling.
I'm on the line. I'm 80 years old, 81 actually, and my question is this. I have a lifetime license. I did not pick up on how I could get a turkey tag in the speaker's indication of how you would get your tags.
All right, we can cover that again for you.
Carl, there is a link to the DNR website on the Your Day website. And as a matter of fact, right on the front page of it right now it's got some information about how to get turkey tags. You can do it online. You simply have to register on the DNR site, go through a couple little steps, and they will be mailed directly to you. If you get in a pinch, and you can't make that online process happen, we will have the handwritten turkey tags available at some of the locations that you can purchase hunting licenses. Not all of them.
Number one, I'm handicapped, and so I can walk out or get out here around the property, but I do not drive, and I'm wondering, is there a way I can get it through the mail?
Yeah, if you go online, you can sign up, fill in your information, and they will be mailed directly to you.
I have no way to get online, but if I get somebody else to do it for me, how would they get online?
Well, again, you simply need to go to the DNR website, and right now, because it's close to turkey season, on the front page of that website, there will be information about...
And how do I get on the website, or how do they get on the website?
I can give you the address, Carl. It's the Your Day radio website, which is very easy. Your Day. .clemson.edu, yourday.clemson.edu. You go to that website, and then you'll see a link to the DNR website.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir. We appreciate the phone call. Into Your Day today with the South Carolina Department of Natural Resources, the first Wednesday in the month, and we talk about hunting, fishing, and boating right here in the state of South Carolina. All right, let's go back to the phone at 888-539-8859. Charles Ruth, a biologist from the Wildlife and Freshwater Fisheries Division of the Department of Natural Resources, is here, as well as Ken Cope, a law enforcement officer, also with the Department of Natural Resources, a wildlife conservation officer, here with us today on Your Day. Let's go to Chris calling from Columbia. Thanks for the phone call, Chris.
Hey, guys. Thanks for taking my call. I'm sure you get this all the time, but, I want to be able to put a fresh wild turkey on my table at Thanksgiving. How come we can't have a limited hunting season in November?
Well, Chris, historically there was a short fall season in South Carolina. That was during the years in the 80s, 1980s. That was only available in the Piedmont, game zones 1 and 2. And that was actually, Chris, in response to very high turkey numbers. Understand that essentially any state that has a fall season is an either sex hunt. You can take a gobbler or a hen. The fall hunt is drastically different than the spring hunt. You don't have gobbling. The birds are flocked up, et cetera, et cetera. The reason we ceased that fall season in the Piedmont was because we started to note declines in reproduction in turkeys even that long ago. And really, to cut to the chase, as we've seen the last 10 years, we simply don't have the birds available to support harvesting hen turkeys. And that's the bottom line. I mean, the quickest way to run your turkey population into the ground is to have additional mortality by hens. So, again, that season was never available in the coastal plain. It was only available in the Piedmont for about 10 years back in the day, when the turkey population was really booming. And, to be honest with you, I don't see it coming back anytime soon, because we're carrying probably 30 to 35% fewer birds right now than we were 10 years ago. And having a fall hunt that included harvesting hens is just totally against anything that we would want to see as far as getting these turkey numbers back up.
What about limiting the number of tags you can, or number of kills you can make in the spring, instead of 5 to 3, maybe?
Well, yeah, I mean that's something that we've wanted to see for a number of years. But again, in the spring, you're talking about gobbler harvest. In the fall, you would be talking about, you could certainly change the bag limit in the spring, which in fact we would like to see. We would like to see a reduction from 5 to 3. But again, the fall thing involves harvesting hens. And that's the real problem, is taking those hens out of the population, particularly now in more recent years, where we've seen a decline in reproduction and a decline in the overall turkey population, as well as a decline in the spring harvest. Another point is, if you're harvesting these birds in the fall, those are birds that you aren't going to have out there for that spring hunt. And for 90% of our turkey hunters, it may be more than 90%, that's what they're in it for. They want to have a traditional spring hunt. They want to have a gobbling bird and that more traditional type hunt. Most of the requests, and don't be offended by this, most of the requests we get about a fall season are related to deer hunters that see these large flocks of turkeys during deer season, and they wonder why they can't just shoot a turkey. So if you really get down to the dyed-in-the-wool spring hunter, most of them don't have a care in the world about a fall season, because it's a totally different hunt.
All right, Chris, we appreciate the phone call into your day today with the South Carolina Department of Natural Resources. Hunting, fishing, and boating in South Carolina is our topic. And if you're interested in any of those three areas, the Palmetto Sportsman's Classic coming up the last weekend in this month, an annual tradition in South Carolina. It's one of the biggest events held at the state fairgrounds here in Columbia. The dates for the Palmetto Sportsman's Classic this year, the 25th, the 26th, and the 27th at the State Fairgrounds right here in Columbia. All right, let's go back to the telephone, 888-539-8859. We're talking turkey season today. Turkey season about to get underway here in the States. So let's go to Hartsville, and this is Buddy. Thanks for the call, Buddy.
Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Hello, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right, go ahead. You're on the air.
Hello. Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Go ahead, buddy. You're on.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're on. If you're listening to the radio, turn your radio down, and we'll just talk here on the phone. All right, let's jump ahead. Go to Larry in Johns Island. Hi, Larry. You're on with DNR.
Thank you, sir. First of all, I want to ask you, I hope it's okay to talk about buzzards as well. Is it?
That's a little bit off topic. What is your question? We'll see if we can address it.
Yeah, well, of course, I'm trying to figure out how do the buzzards hone in on the things that they eat. And I've come to the conclusion that I believe that they smell it out, because
They do.
they seem to be able to find things that are covered up by foliage or leaves and other things, and yet they find it, and they must be detecting it by olfactory sense.
That's correct, Larry. Unlike most birds that don't have a well-developed olfactory system, buzzards do, and you're exactly right.
Amazing.
All right, Larry. All right, thanks for the phone call. And turkey buzzards aren't covered during turkey season, right?
Negative.
Negative.
The black vultures as well as turkey vultures are federally protected, so that's a different ball of wax.
Absolutely. All right, let's go to John in McCormick County. You're on Your Day with the Department of Natural Resources, John.
Thanks for taking my call, gentlemen.
Sure.
My question statement is that over here at McCormick, at least at my place, the numbers are dramatically reduced, almost depleted for turkeys, so much so that the last 5 years we've gone out but haven't actively been hunting them. And I wonder if there's a program that you guys put on that can help replenish turkeys in an area such as ours.
John, we're seeing that type of decline in a lot of parts of the state, as well as a lot of parts of the southeast. We did for a number of years, starting in the mid-1970s. Of course, we entered into a full-scale turkey restoration program. It was very successful, as I'm sure you're aware. We ended that restoration cycle in about 2004 or 2005, and we really haven't, trapped and relocated birds since then. And the thing about it is, you've still got birds in the area. It's not like there's not a source for you to recover. And I think what needs to be addressed is either habitat issues or whatever the issues are that are facing not only South Carolina but the other states related to this decline in reproduction and decline in recruitment. So, to directly answer your question, we are not relocating birds at this time. I would ask you to be patient as conditions change. Again, last year we had a little better reproduction. Keep your fingers crossed. If we get a couple of years of good reproduction, we'll be right back in business, because turkeys are highly productive, when they get good survival.
Well, we have witnessed a few turkeys this year off deer stands and stuff, so we have spotted some, and that's encouraging. So we hope that earlier your comments were be patient, because these young ones are not going to be available to be hunted, not much gobbling, no mature ones, or very few of them, until a year or two from now.
Sure, exactly. And I think, I've spent a good bit of time in McCormick County, John. My wife's actually from Abbeville, and that habitat up in that part of the state, and to a large degree in much of our state, it's changed so much. The habitat that was created back in the 80s, there was a lot of timber cut, which I'm sure you're very familiar with. It was planted to pines, and you've only got a certain window in these commercial pines when you've got good productivity, and we've passed that window. And a lot of the properties I'm familiar with in McCormick County right now, you've got 15 and 20-year-old pine plantations, and it's simply run its course. It's not producing as many turkeys. It's not producing as many deer, and until we start getting some habitat improvements, I think we're going to have to learn to live with what we got. But turkeys can bounce back. There's no question about that.
Well, additionally, I think our property backs up to the lake over here, and I think we've got every kind of predator alive that wanders these areas. I'm sure that's been a part. I know it has with deer.
Sure, absolutely. It's all a multifaceted situation.
Right. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir. John, thank you for calling Your Day in the Department of Natural Resources today. If you have additional questions, would like to follow up on any of the information we're offering today, or if you have not received your turkey tags and plan on doing some turkey hunting this year and need to visit the DNR website, remember you can always find a link to the DNR website on the Your Day radio website. The Your Day site is yourday.clemson.edu, yourday.clemson.edu, for a link to the Department of Natural Resources website. And we're talking turkey today. Turkey season starts March 15th in some parts of South Carolina. That would be Game Zone 6, the lower southern part of the state, and starts elsewhere on April 1st. That April 1st date also includes all of the public WMA public hunting lands in South Carolina. 888-539-8859 is our phone number. Still a lot of time left in today's show if you have a question on your mind. All right, let's go to Buddy. Let's see, is this right, Buddy in Hartsville?
Yes, sir.
Hello, Buddy. How are you?
Good. Sorry about the first follow-up. Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Good afternoon. Go ahead.
First thing I wanted to ask was, I started hunting back in early 80s down in Francis Marion, where they still had the capture program going on, and really had a good time down there for quite a few years. I was just wondering why you guys did away with the check stations.
Well, that's a good question, Buddy, and I'll tell you, most folks think that the check stations were a law enforcement tool, and that is not correct. Check stations were counting the number of birds that are harvested, okay?
Right.
The tag, the actual physical tag that you put on your bird, is the law enforcement tool. And, you know, as things changed, a lot of the check stations that we had, they were places where, you know, population centers had grown up. People didn't want to see these dead birds being brought into these places. As turkey numbers increased, unlike in the past when you were kind of limited to hunting on the Francis Marion, you know, once we got back in the turkey business, you could go right down the road on private property and find turkeys, and it became a matter of convenience. Also, there was some cost associated with operating those check stations, but the biggest thing is, Buddy, hunters, as we got more turkeys and people got more friendly with harvesting turkeys and it became much more commonplace, they weren't checking their birds, which was biasing our harvest data.
Right.
And what we did before we stopped with the check stations, we started doing a survey just like we had always been doing for deer, and it gave us a clearer picture of the big picture as far as turkey harvest. And I can recall that, you know, the question I had on those early turkey surveys directed at this, do you check your bird? 20% of the hunters admitted freely they weren't checking their birds. So that was really giving us some problems with our data. And, you know, when you use the right survey tool and use it randomly, it gives you a better estimate of the total harvest rather than what we had relied on in the past, with check stations being a, quote, reported harvest.
So it's actually more accurate now.
Absolutely. Particularly, you know, it's you see this in all things, and all states have seen it. As these game species have repopulated and it became commonplace to hunt and harvest them, this notion of ending up at a check station, it got to be a problem for people because it was business as usual. So people stopped visiting the stations just to see a dead turkey or just to see a dead deer, and it started confounding the data. But again, a lot of folks think that we somehow dropped the ball from an enforcement standpoint, but the check station was not an enforcement issue. You know, there was no way to know. If you think back how you checked your bird, you got a little legal kill tag, but there was no digital way that if you had have checked more birds than you were supposed to, that we would have ever known about it. It was more of a gathering of harvest data.
Yeah, I still have some of the cards from Wamball and Mecon out in Francis Marion back in the day.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Also, you mentioned earlier, and I've heard this over and over again, I was out at Charles Howard's when I think you guys were out there earlier this year, about funds for research for turkeys, and I can guarantee you to an individual there is nobody that hunts turkeys that wouldn't be more than happy to kick in a few dollars, say, paying for the turkey tags to get you guys some funds.
Sure, absolutely. I found the same thing. You know, we've done enough surveys, and turkey hunters are, you know, they understand that, particularly now, Buddy, since we're mailing the tags to everyone, there's a cost to that, and right now we're having to kind of eat that cost. And
absolutely, yeah.
You know, I think if we had a modest fee on turkey tags, not only could we pay for the cost of the program, but we could build up a little money and start getting back into the turkey research business. We hadn't done any research on turkeys in almost 40 years now.
Wow.
The Is this something you'd have to take up with your local legislator?
That's correct. Yes, sir.
Okay. Thanks a lot, fellas.
All right, have a good
All right,
one.
buddy. Thanks for the call. Charles, as I move around the state, I'm still seeing some of these wildlife check station signs in the windows of some of the rural little country stores and that kind of thing. So no official check station activities going on. They just haven't taken the sign down, I guess,
That's
right?
correct.
Okay.
That's correct. And Mike, still, some of the places that you can get the over-the-counter turkey tags are coincidentally those same places.
Right, yeah. Okay. All right, we're talking turkey season in South Carolina because it's almost here. And if you'd like to join us, 888-539-8859. Charles Ruth, a biologist, also the Deer and Turkey Project manager for the South Carolina Department of Natural Resources, is here, as well as law enforcement wildlife conservation officer Ken Cope is also here with us today on Your Day. All right, let's go next on the phone here at 888-539-8859. Let's go to the Sun Fun Cities, Myrtle Beach, and Anthony's on the phone.
How you doing, gentlemen? Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I just wanted to check with you real quick. I'm originally from the Midwest, and I'm a new resident to South Carolina now. I just moved up from Florida, so I'm really looking forward to getting back into the woods with my sons and get them into hunting and like my father did back in the Midwest. But I wanted to ask you, as being a new resident of South Carolina, do you require any hunter safety courses or any kind of safety courses that are required prior to getting a license?
All right, good question. Ken, would you like to address that one? Hunter safety course requirements for hunters in South Carolina.
Hunter education is required for all people that was born after June 30th, 1979. You have to take a hunter education course. You're supposed to get your license purchased. But we also have an apprentice license that just came out this year that will void that hunter education for 1 year to see if you like to hunt or not. So you can use that apprentice license for your kids or yourself this year, and then if your kids or if you was born before June 30th, after June 30th, 1979, you can go online and take the course, or and then have to go to the Columbia office to take the written course, or either you can get with some of your local hunter education teachers in your Myrtle Beach area, and they can give you the tests there, and they'll have certain areas throughout the year in Myrtle Beach that they will give the test. So yes, for 1979 and after, you're going to have it if you. Go ahead, sir.
Okay, well, yeah, I was born after that, but if I take the course, that would cover my sons because they were all born after 79, or do they have to take the test individually? They
would have to take the test individually. But like I was saying, for 1 year, if you want to try it this year to see if they like it or not, whether or not they like hunting, they can get the apprentice license, and that will allow them to go this year.
Okay. All right, I appreciate you answering my question there. Have a good day. Thanks.
You too, sir.
The apprentice license, is that just available to a certain age group?
No, it's not really any. I checked one guy, he was almost 60. He just started hunting.
Oh, really?
He had an apprentice license this year. But
he
didn't even have to have it because he was...
Right.
He was before the date.
Before the date there. Okay, great. More information on hunter education and boater education courses, of course, can be found on the DNR website. And you can always find a link to the DNR website at yourday.clemson.edu. We're talking about turkey season in South Carolina, a big event for the hunting crowd here, and about to begin in the middle of March in some parts of the state, and then the remainder of the state. It begins on April 1st, and all WMAs. Turkey season begins on April 1 here in South Carolina. All right, moving on to the telephone at 888-539-8859. Let's go to Eva in Greenville. Hi, Eva. Thanks for calling.
How you doing?
Good.
Here I go with probably the female point of view, but if the turkeys, the numbers are so low, why do they, even hunt them? Why don't they just distribute them around the state? Or do they have to have the proper habitat? Or
Well, Eva, I think you got to realize that when we start talking about having fewer turkeys, we've still got a whole lot of turkeys in South Carolina. I mean, we aren't in a critical type situation at this point, so it's all a matter of perspective in this case, I would say.
But what about? I've heard that some states don't even have wild turkeys. I mean, is that true?
No, all of the lower 48 states do, including some Canadian provinces. So, in the last 30 years, the various states have gone through these restoration efforts just like we did years ago in South Carolina. And, don't have the wrong perception, because we've got turkeys in all counties. They vary in density, but we've got a great resource in our wild turkey population, and certainly it can support hunting. It has done so in a sustained manner for many, many years. And it's just a matter of, you're going to have ups and downs, and right now we're in a little down cycle. And, 5 years from now, we may be saying, where'd all these turkeys come from? But, yeah, it's not a critical type situation. I guess that would be my primary message.
Well, I live in Pickens. I actually live in Pickens County, but I think we have lots of wild turkeys there.
Sure.
I see them, in flocks around the house and stuff. So, one more question. My husband's family lives in Augusta, and when we get down through there, we always pass this Wildlife Turkey Federation. What do they do there?
Well, the National Wild Turkey Federation is a non-governmental conservation organization. In fact, it's the largest single-species conservation organization in the country. They have worked with entities like the South Carolina Department of Natural Resources here in South Carolina. They've worked with other state agencies in this process over the last 40 years of restoring turkey populations across the United States.
Okay, so they do good work there.
Yeah, it's been a cooperative type situation. They've got private membership. Their membership numbers over 300,000. And frankly, a lot of the on-the-ground work by their members as far as habitat management, putting together restoration areas and so forth, they've been instrumental in it. So it's kind of been a cooperative type thing among the various state wildlife agencies like SCDNR and the Turkey Federation over the years, and, it really worked well.
Okay, well, I guess that answers a lot of my questions.
All right, Eva, well, yes, we appreciate the call. Yeah, the national, I guess you could say the global, worldwide headquarters for the Wild Turkey Federation located in Edgefield, South Carolina. So, that's what you're seeing. All right, let's go back to the phone here, 888-539-8859. Let me remind you real quick about the Palmetto Sportsman's Classic, March 25th. 26th, 27th, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, an annual event here in South Carolina. If you're interested in what we're talking about here today, well, you may be interested in attending the Palmetto Sportsman's Classic, because it's all about the great outdoors and just everything you could imagine for hunting, fishing, boating, and camping. You'll find it at the Palmetto Sportsman's Classic. It is one of the largest events held at the state fairgrounds in Columbia. And now I can't recall if it's the 26th or 27th year. I should know that, because I've been working with the Classic almost since the very, very beginning. Yeah, I've been at it a long time. That show just grows and grows and grows. It's now in every building. We have exhibits in every building out at the state fairgrounds and the entire Midway area. So it really is a huge event. March 25th, 26th, and 27th, the Palmetto Sportsman's Classic here in Columbia. All right, back to the telephone now. I got sidetracked. Let's go to Brian in Conway. Hi, Brian.
Hey, how's it going?
Good.
My question is, I understand that all state lands hunting doesn't open until April 1st, but are there any opportunities afforded to us on heritage reserves or land owned by Santee Cooper starting March 15th in Game Zone 6?
Well, Brian, this differential turkey season is certainly an issue, and understand that the vast majority of the state on private land, it begins April 1. And sure. what I would say is that lower down in the lower coastal plain, that's politics. But and I really can't say it any other way. If you go back in history, back into the early 70s, where there was a turkey season in South Carolina, understand that there wasn't an open season everywhere. But where there was a season, it was March 15th to April 15th.
Mm-hmm.
Now, once we got into the turkey business, so to speak, we started research programs looking at the peak time of gobbling, the peak time of nesting, and those are the things you have to look at in order to set your season appropriately. Once we did that, the recommendation was for the season statewide to begin April 1, okay? And what happened was that took across the majority of the state. However, in that lower portion of the state, they simply added that recommendation to what already exists, which got you the March 15th start date. So, I think we're much more comfortable with the April 1 start date biologically. Understand that these birds, they're still in their winter flocks right now. They will still be in their winter flocks for a couple more weeks. They will begin to break up right at the end of March. We need to let these birds breed a little bit to get these hens fertile and let them start laying eggs before we start removing a lot of the gobblers out, which could affect reproduction. And I know right now you can walk out. It was a beautiful morning this morning. You could hear a turkey gobble, but that's not the peak of the gobble. That's not the peak of the gobbling that you should be interested in as a turkey hunter.
That's just the pecking order.
Yes, exactly. That's right. They're shucking and jiving right now, trying to figure out who's going to end up with the hens when these flocks break up. And actually, the peak of the gobbling is actually mid-April. So even April 1 may be a little bit early. And we all know as turkey hunters, once you start getting in the woods, it changes these animals' habits. They start shutting down with the gobbling. But the best thing we can do is wait till these birds really, once these hens start laying and moving away from the gobblers, that's what actually stimulates the peak in the gobbling. And that doesn't happen until April 1.
Yeah.
But it is an issue.
My question, is there any opportunities on heritage reserves in Game Zone 6 with, being land that's not owned by the state?
Well, heritage preserves are, and I think, again, our recommendation would be April 1.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll just wait till April 1, I guess.
Yep.
All right.
You'll have better hunting if you do, I promise you.
All right, Brian, thanks for the phone call into Your Day Today with the South Carolina Department of Natural Resources. We've been talking about turkey season, and we'll be here for the next few minutes on Your Day with the Department of Natural Resources. We talk about hunting, fishing, and boating. And looking ahead to the month of April, the April program will be on Wednesday, April the 6th. Wednesday, April 6th. We'll be back with another DNR on Your Day show. All right, let's go to Ralph in Little River. Good questions here. One about white gobblers and one about the lifespan of a turkey. Hi, Ralph. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. Yeah, I was wondering, last year I kept seeing a couple of white gobblers, and I was wondering how prevalent they are, and are they legal to shoot? And also, I shot a banded turkey a few years ago. They said I thought Dave Bauman told me that he was 8 years old when they tagged him. Yeah. And that was 2 or 3 years after they tagged him. And I was just wondering how old the turkey lived.
Well, typically, Ralph, these birds are not very long-lived. I would say a 3 to 4 year old turkey, whether it's a hen or a gobbler, that's a pretty old bird. But you know as well as I do that you do have birds that make it through and survive for many, many years. I would think that, in optimal conditions, you could probably look at 8 or 10 years. But, again, you're looking at fringe, you're looking at outliers, and it's not typical for them to live that long. That's a cherishable prize you've got there as far as the band on that bird, so I would hold on to that. As far as the white turkey, if it's a true wild turkey, that's simply a genetic anomaly. From a genetic standpoint, you can have several variable type color patterns in these wild birds, from what they call a smoky gray to a true albino, which would feature pure white, including pink eyes and so forth. As long as it's a gobbler, it is legal during the open season, no question about it. But what you're looking at is a genetic situation. If you saw more than one, they probably came from the same clutch. The parents, the male and female, probably were not off-colored. It was just a matter of their genes getting together to express that recessive or hidden trait.
Okay. Yeah, they had the pink eyes and everything, and they were definitely in the wild flock. So
sure.
Anyway, well, thank you. I appreciate the job y'all doing. You're doing a great job. I tell you, I'm a professional guide and travel back and forth across the country, and South Carolina Wildlife has the best department of any of them as far as I'm concerned. I wish those politicians would give y'all some more money so you could keep up the good work. I'm sorry about the cuts.
All right, Ralph. Well, and thank you so much for calling into your day today with the South Carolina Department of Natural Resources. All right, Charles, Palmetto Sportsman's Classic coming up, and you all do deer rack scoring every year out there. Tell us more about that.
Well, Mike, as most of the deer hunters know, we do have a very active antler records program for South Carolina deer. This is the time of the year that we typically do most of our scoring. We will have some remote scoring locations set up at the regional level. You can refer to the website to find those locations. And I guess to say that kind of culminates with the Palmetto Sportsman's Classic. We'll be out there for the duration of that event. We normally score approximately 300 sets of antlers at that event.
Wow.
Of which about maybe 25 to 30% of them make our state antler record lists. Again, if you're interested in the antler record program, it's on our website, as well as information about the Sportsman's Classic,
which is coming up March 25th, 26th, and 27th at the State Fairgrounds, an annual event, the Palmetto Sportsman's Classic, the last weekend in this month. I want to thank my guest today, Wildlife Conservation Officer Ken Cope from the DNR Law Enforcement Division, and biologist Charles Ruth from the Wildlife and Freshwater Fisheries Division of the Department of Natural Resources. My name is Mike Willis. We'll talk to you again in April. Have a good month.
Thank you, Mike. That is our show for today. We thank you for joining us, too. Today's discussion was hosted by Mike Willis of the South Carolina Department of Natural Resources. Our thanks to the staff of ETV Radio in Columbia for technical assistance with this program. The mention of specific goods and services on your day in no way implies endorsement by Clemson University or ETV Radio. Neither do the opinions expressed necessarily reflect those of the university or ETV Radio. Your Day is produced in the studios of Clemson University Radio Productions, located at the Madron Conference Center. We invite you to become a fan of Your Day on Facebook, to follow us on Twitter, and to respond to our programming on our listener comment line. You'll find those links and that phone number at yourday.clemson.edu. Your Day is a public service program of Clemson University.